Have you ever noticed how quickly we run from boredom? The moment silence falls, we reach for our phones. The instant we feel restless, we open another app, scroll another feed, search for another distraction. We live in a world terrified of stillness, a culture that treats boredom as something to be avoided at all costs. But what if boredom was not the enemy? What if boredom was the very thing that history's greatest minds used to create, to discover, and to rise above the ordinary? This is the hidden truth. Boredom is not emptiness. Boredom is space. And in that space, silence grows. And in that silence, greatness is born. We have been taught to fear boredom, but the greatest thinkers embraced it. They understood that when the mind has nothing to cling to, it begins to wander, to imagine, to connect ideas in ways it never could, while buried under constant noise. Take Isaac Newton. When the plague struck London, Newton was sent home, away from the universities, away from the noise of busy life. For months, he lived in near isolation, doing nothing but wandering gardens, staring at the sky, lost in silence. And in that silence, he discovered the law of gravity. He later called it his year of wonders. A year born not out of busyness, but out of boredom. Or consider Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher who said, "Silence is of eternity, words are of time." He knew that it was in long walks, in solitary hours, in quiet boredom, that his most powerful ideas were born. Even Albert Einstein said that many of his insights came not while he was working, but while he was simply playing the violin or drifting in thought. He once said, "Creativity is the residue of time wasted." Wasted? Or was it something deeper? What we call wasted time, the great minds called creation. But why does boredom carry such power? The answer lies in the way the human mind works. When we are busy, when we fill every moment with tasks, the brain has no room to breathe. But when we do nothing, when we let ourselves become bored, a different part of the brain wakes up, the default mode network. This is the part responsible for imagination, for connecting distant ideas, for weaving meaning where before there was only noise. This is why so often your best ideas come in the shower, or while staring out of a window, or when you are simply waiting, bored. The mind, when free, begins to speak truths it cannot reveal in chaos. But here is the tragedy of our time. We have killed boredom, carry devices that promise endless stimulation. We fill silence with sound, emptiness with distraction, rest with busyness. And in doing so, we silence the voice of our own imagination. Think about children. When they are bored, they create games, stories, entire worlds out of nothing. But when given endless entertainment, they stop creating. They consume, but they do not imagine. Adults are no different. We have traded the fire of imagination for the comfort of distraction. But the great minds refused this trade. They saw what boredom really was, a doorway to silence. And silence was not emptiness, but the ground from which truth and greatness could rise. Socrates once said, "An unexamined life is not worth living." But how can you examine your life when you never pause? How can you hear your soul when you are never silent? How can you create when you are always consuming? Boredom forces you to pause. It strips away the noise. It leaves you alone with yourself. And yes, at first it is uncomfortable. At first, the silence feels heavy. But stay with it, and you will see that the silence is not empty at all. It is full of answers you have been running from, full of ideas waiting to be born, full of power you have forgotten you have. There is a story about Blaise Pascal, the French philosopher, once wrote, "All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone." He saw it clearly. The fear of boredom was the fear of self. And that fear leads to endless distraction, endless noise, endless suffering. When you face boredom, when you sit quietly in that room, when you welcome silence instead of running from it, you discover something greater. You discover yourself. The desert monks of early Christianity understood this well. They withdrew into barren places, into silence, into boredom so deep it became sacred. And in that silence, they found truths that transformed them. They knew that only when the surface mind grew restless and tired, the deeper voice could speak. You see, boredom is not an absence. It is an opening. It is the mind knocking on the door of imagination. But most people, instead of opening the door, run away. They fill it with noise. They silence the very voice that could guide them to greatness. Think of a field. If it is always plowed, always planted, always harvested without rest, it becomes barren. But when left fallow, when nothing grows, its soil becomes rich again, ready to produce more than ever. Your mind is that field. Boredom is its season of rest. And in that rest, it grows fertile with ideas. This is why great minds loved silence, because they saw what others could not. That the quiet spaces, the boring hours, the empty afternoons were not wasted at all. They were the birthplace of everything meaningful. Now, ask yourself, when was the last time you allowed yourself to be bored? Truly bored. Not scrolling, not multitasking, not rushing. Just sitting, just being, just allowing silence to wash over you. Most of us cannot remember. And that is why so many live lives of endless repetition, without depth, without creativity, without clarity. But you don't have to live that way. You can reclaim boredom. You can welcome silence back into your life. Start small. Next time you feel bored, resist the urge to escape. Put down the phone. Let the boredom grow. Sit with it. Walk with it. Breathe with it. And watch what happens. At first, your mind will resist. It will scream for stimulation. But slowly the resistance will fade. And in that quiet, something else will rise. A thought you had forgotten. An idea that changes everything. A moment of clarity that shifts your life. This is the power of boredom. This is why great minds loved silence. Because boredom is not the end of thought. It is the beginning. Silence is not the death of creativity. It is its birthplace. Doing nothing is not weakness. It is strength. The world will try to convince you that you must always be busy. But remember Newton in his garden. Remember Einstein with his violin. Remember Pascal in his quiet room. Remember the monks in the desert. Greatness was never born in noise. It was born in silence. So the next time you feel bored, smile. For you are standing at the doorway. And on the other side of that doorway lies your greatest self. Take the step. Embrace boredom. Welcome silence. Because in that nothingness, you will find everything. And now, I leave you with this challenge. After this video ends, don't rush to the next distraction. Sit, be bored, be silent, even if only for 5 minutes. See what rises in that silence. It's what truth whispers to you. Because boredom is not your enemy. It is your guide. Silence is not emptiness. It is the space where your greatness begins. This is the power of boredom. This is why great minds loved silence. And this is how you too can rise in stillness. If this message touched your heart, take it with you. Practice it today. Share it with someone who fears silence. Remember, still rise is a place for calm wisdom, for quiet growth, for rising without noise. So breathe, be still, and keep rising. Because even in silence, you are still rising.